Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to Glass Seats. This is Viddy.
And my name is Mrinal, and in this episode, we have to talk about contender for trade of the decade. 5 years in, and we already got a trade of the decade right here. If you've been living under a rock, Mikko Rantanen of the Colorado Avalanche gets traded to the Carolina Hurricanes for Marty Nečas. Full details. Avalanche gets Marty Nečas and Jack Drury, a 2025 second-round pick, and a 2026 fourth-round pick. The Hurricanes get Mikko Rantanen and Taylor Hall from Chicago, as well as prospect Niels Juntorp. Chicago, as a facilitator, gets a 2025 third-round pick and retains 50% of Rantanen's salary.
Yes, and this trade happened on Friday, January 24th. So it's been, by the time this episode comes out, it's been a week and then some.
Yeah.
Marty Nečas has already looked very good for the Avalanche.
So has Rantanen.
And so has Rantanen. So there's been a million videos already released on this trade, but something I wanted to talk about was the long-term aspect of this game, and weirdly enough, the influence that Vegas has on this trade, in my opinion.
Vegas.
All
right. Do tell.
Yeah. So let's start with the long-term impact. So it was going to be tough to re-sign Rantanen at the cap's going up, but like at the same time, we saw Leon Draisaitl get signed for an absurd amount, $14 million, but worth it, right? He's a center. Rantanen is not. He is a winger. To pay more than McKinnon, you're arguably one of the best centers in the league. To pay more than that, he's making 12.6, which seems like a bargain now at this point for McKinnon. I don't think the Avalanche were willing to do it, so they were like, let's focus on depth pieces. Also think that's a good idea. The reason I bring Vegas into this is, again, that cutthroat strategy that we're seeing other people do, other GMs take note of. I think that has some sort of influence. We were literally just talking about before this episode started about how Vegas doesn't need 50 goal scorers because everyone on that roster scores. And in the long term, if you were going to end up signing Rantanen and locking yourself into a Toronto situation, especially when you need to re-up Cale Makar, that you would have handcuffed yourself, right? Like, let's be real, Toronto hasn't won anything. Vegas has. So
yeah, I'm glad you bring Cale Makar up because I think that's the key here. So adding in some more information from Elliot Friedman from the 32 Thoughts podcast. Colorado's argument was, we'll pay you, Mikko, but you're not going to get more than McKinnon. Mikko said, well, McKinnon signed that deal when the cap was lower, and by percentage of cap, I am now worth more. And it sounds like Mikko Rantanen was already discounting himself, but his discounted price was already too high for Colorado.
Yes.
So after being traded, Mikko said, I was willing to take a deal to stay in Colorado, but it seems like even that deal was too high for what Colorado wanted to pay. And Elliot Friedman was speculating they wanted to keep him under McKinnon because they expect Makar to make more than McKinnon.
Yeah. And I think the reason again, this goes back to the whole cutthroat strategy. Like, hey, we're not budging. And I think you kind of need to do that as a GM if you want to win in such a competitive league where, let's be real, luck does matter. Things like have to fall into place. Imagine, I'm not saying like it's going to happen, but imagine like a key injury happens during the playoffs, you just can't play through one of those injuries. Yeah. Now you're shit out of luck because all that cap is gone, right? Like, and there's nothing you can really do about it.
But see, yeah, you're right that this is a better way to build a team for the long term. That all makes sense. But what about this year? Colorado could have won a cup this year with Rantanen.
I mean, I still think they can with Marty Nečas and Jack Drury. Like, I think they've both done pretty good work so far. Like, I don't know if either of them has scored yet. And again, we won't know because this episode is going up on a Monday. But like, it's hard to say. Like, they put up apples, but I don't know about the goals yet. But either way, they're contributing offensively. So I think.
But Rantanen was the goals. Right?
Sure.
So now you're going to expect those goals to come from where? From McKinnon and Makar, right?
Right. But like it has been so far. And I think something to note is that when he's not playing, when I say he, I mean Rantanen, is not playing with McKinnon, not that his production necessarily drops off a cliff, but it is significantly lower without McKinnon, So I don't know if Colorado is willing to take that risk long term in terms of inking him to keep the two together, like, because they were kind of insinuating it felt like that, not that he's a product of McKinnon, but that McKinnon has helped bolster him out, and who wouldn't argue with that? Like, McKinnon is amazing. McKinnon is that team.
So do you expect Carolina to keep him, or is this a rental?
For sure. There's no way that team makes a trade without trying to sign him unless he walks in free agency to Tampa.
Yeah, like, do they let him walk? That's the question.
That would be so foolish. You lost Nečas, Drury, and now Rantanen.
Yeah.
After losing Gensel last offseason. The GM better get canned at that point. Like,
well, it depends. There's a chance Kaprizov is available
for a Carolina to sign.
Yeah, so in free agency, if both Rantanen and Kaprizov hit free agency, you let Rantanen walk, you sign Kaprizov.
Why would you do that though? Like, it's, in my opinion, those two players are not on the same scale.
Really?
I would have Rantanen over Kaprizov.
Okay. Yeah, so then it's a matter of who do you value more, Kaprizov or Rantanen, right?
Okay, yeah. Because Rantanen has, like, he's also a cup winner, right? Like, he's proven that when things get tough, he's able to pull through.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. And we've sat here and talked about how Carolina constantly has gone through, they've gone far. They've gone far in the playoffs, but they haven't just made it there yet. They now have a guy who's won a cup and has gotten his previous team.
Carolina's goal is to get past the conference final this year.
And I think this was a good move. I don't necessarily see Kaprizov filling in that role just yet. I mean, I could eat my words this playoffs. Who knows who's gonna go to the cup final? But they have the experience, the deep playoff experience, and I think this is like kind of pushing them over that. Sure, you gave up a lot, but like
it really seems to me this is a win-win. Carolina is loading up for this year.
Yeah.
Colorado is trying to set up for their future.
Yeah. So now that we have two winners, let's talk about the absolute friggin' loser here, Chicago.
Oh, yeah. Gave up Taylor Hall and get their own third-round pick back from Carolina.
And they're paying Rantanen's salary. Granted, it's only for this season, but like...
So apparently the rumor here is that Kyle Davidson didn't know whose salary they would be retaining. So he didn't know it was Rantanen.
How do you not know that?
Apparently they held him out. They just said, we'll give you a third-round pick if you retain some salary. And he was like, okay, sure.
Who do they think they were? Jack Drury? His salary?
Yeah.
Like, what?
Apparently he didn't ask. So there's questions now for Kyle Davidson because only getting a third round out of this is tough.
Like, if I had to pick a loser here, it's Connor Bedard.
Yeah.
Because no bottom feeding team like Chicago should be getting rid of players that for a salary cap reason, especially when it's a veteran winner. Like, when I say winner, I mean like he won the Hart a couple years ago.
Yeah.
To help out Connor Bedard, to help the development. Like, you went out this past offseason to get all these
They weren't playing
vets
together anyway. Taylor Hall was playing down in the lineup.
Sure, but like at least there's the veteran presence on the bench and stuff like that, right? Like, not saying that Foligno's all of a sudden gone and that Bertuzzi's all of a sudden gone, right? But like, how does this help your team move the needle forward at all?
Yeah,
I don't think it does. So,
and this is Chicago is dangerously getting close to Buffalo territory.
What do you mean?
Of having just young guys and being like, figure it out.
I mean, no, what are you talking about? They have so many vets though.
Yeah, but if you keep making moves like this, right? And it's not like those vets are the type that are helping Bedard. If you watch Chicago play, it's the Bedard show.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Yeah.
And this year, he's not being as dynamic as last year. And it's
showing.
And there's questions coming up now about Bedard, and you don't want people questioning this guy this early in his career, right?
Yeah, he's 19, like, lay off.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, because I think it was the face-off stat. He's like not good at face-offs right now. But he's young. That's something that comes later.
Yeah.
He's also smaller. He'll get size, and face-offs are very physical. So, and the fact that you have to have him take serious draws because he's your only option.
Yeah.
When games are tight, right?
Right.
So, I mean, yes, they have veterans, but not the type that they need, I think.
Yeah. This is definitely a head-scratching trade for Chicago to even involve themselves in, because I don't see in any way, shape, or form how this is, like, I understand they're being a broker, but they didn't even get anything out of it, really.
Their own third round pick.
Yeah, but it's a third round pick.
Yeah.
when does a third round pick ever pan out to like anything crazy? And don't bring up like friggin' Nikita Kucherov in the second or third round, whenever it was. Like,
you'd have to hit.
That's an anomaly. Yeah, like that doesn't happen very often.
And if you knew it was Rantanen, you could have been like, you know what? It's a second round pick, at least.
Yeah. Or
we're not giving you Hall.
Yeah. Or something. Yeah, something needed to be there more for Chicago. Speaking of, do you think the Avalanche got enough in this return? Because there's some people out there saying like, oh, they should have got a first back. Because Rantanen is in the top 10 of scoring like pretty much every year.
Yeah, but you got Nečas.
Sure, he's amazing. I think he's going to do incredible in Colorado. I think he's going to...
I think you either get Nečas or you get a first. You don't get both.
Really?
Yeah.
Even for a player like Rand, like, because it's not going to be like a draft lottery first. It's going to be like a
late first.
Late first, right?
Yeah.
You still think that even then?
No, I still think even then.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I feel like Colorado could have honestly got a little bit more. If not a first, maybe they could have gotten like a second.
They did get a second.
Another second.
Another second,
like 2 seconds at least.
I don't even know if Carolina had another second to give.
Oh, okay.
They might have traded
future
it earlier.
considerations, yeah.
But I think that's nitpicky.
Yeah, yeah.
I think this is fairly fair.
Yeah, I think also it was either that or you come to free agency and you let him walk for nothing, right?
Yeah. Also, keep in mind, Colorado didn't have to retain anything.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. The full salary. I mean, I think it's like $9 million something. That's going to.
So half
Ranson.
of it's in Chicago and half's in Carolina.
Yeah.
So I think for the fact of not retaining, maybe they cut back on their return a little. Like the third that Chicago got, maybe Colorado would have gotten it.
Yeah. But yeah, either way, like a week and a half about a week and a half later, the trade seems to be working out for both teams, unless you're Chicago. And it's just, it's been interesting to see how it's going to pan out. I do think that Ranson is going to re-sign in Carolina. I feel like it would be foolish for the Hurricanes to not re-sign him.
Yeah, unless they win this year.
Unless they win, then all bets are off.
Do what you want.
Do what you want, yeah. But I think this is a trade. It was a kind of a cutthroat trade. Ranson was a fan favorite, but I think it was a cutthroat trade that kind of needed to be made to put two franchises on the right trajectory. So
to end this episode, does this make Carolina the leading Cup contender from the East?
I'm interested to see how they rebound without Nečas, because that man was a dog in Carolina. But like, you got Ranson in now, and maybe Taylor Hall can like step it up a little bit more offensively, right? So I think it's gonna make them better. Yeah, I don't know if it'll put them over the top, but at this point in time, we'll tell, right? So yeah,
you lose a dog, you gain a moose.
There's the title.
Let us know your thoughts on the Carolina Hurricanes and the Colorado Avalanche in the comments below. If you like this episode, drop a like on it. Hit subscribe if you want more glass seats. We have multiple episodes out every week. See you next one.